I can only keep one of these bikes. So which is it going to be? On the last motorcycle launch I did for Visordown, another journalist on the launch said, when I told him I bought these two bikes, he said, why have you done that? They basically do the same thing. And yeah, I'll tell you the reason, I'm an idiot. Because what happened obviously is, if you might have seen, I did a video to see if I could find a bike for under £1,000, and this is what I found. I was very happy with it. But then one of the other bikes that we looked at that I thought was a bit expensive was this VFR750F. Sorry, I should say that's a Triumph Sprint 955i, just in case you're wondering. This one came up, it was a bit expensive considering it had no MOT, but then the seller dropped the price and I thought, oh, I quite fancy that, and I bought that as well. So I've now ended up with two sports tourers from the kind of late 90s, early 2000s that they do the same sort of thing but in very different ways. I can't really justify keeping two such similar bikes and paying the insurance and tax of both of them. I could do with a garage space, although what will probably happen is I'll end up selling one of them and then just get something else, because as I've explained before, I'm a bit of a Facebook marketplace addict. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of them out for a ride back to back. So I've not done that yet. I've ridden them on separate days, but I've never ridden both on the same day back to back like I'm about to. I'm going to make the case for each, and by the end of this video I'm going to decide which one stays and which one goes. Now what I should say is I'm not going to get rid of it immediately. I guess it's going to be like a stay of execution, if you like, because yeah, with each of these there's a few different videos I want to do, some comparisons with other bikes, that kind of thing. Whichever one is going to go is going to stick around for a little bit longer, maybe a few months, but then it's out. Yeah, I guess let's start riding. There she is, looking resplendent. Now the only reason why I'm filming me getting on it and starting it is because there is a chance that it might not start, because I have been having some issues with this, and this will go in the Triumph's favour. This is the whole sprag clutch thing. Needn't have worried. Still not quite warm, so I'm going to get a little bit of choke. But yeah, this definitely goes in the Triumph favour, because the Triumph, no problem starting that at all. But this, as noted by the MOT tester, yeah, sprag clutch is probably on its way out. And yeah, sure enough, when I tried to start it earlier, there's a sound of something spinning but then nothing engaging, so I don't know if that's the starter motor going but the sprag clutch not engaging. I don't really know the ins and outs of the system, but it's a worry anyway. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good case for this bike. The sound, I'll be to you fair, that's a pretty strong suit for both bikes, but this, I think, this sounds good at all RPM. I said before in the pickup video for this bike that it kind of sounds good everywhere. You've got, yeah, if anything, it's that low kind of 3,000 to 4,000 RPM rumble where I think it sounds the most delicious. But also, bang it round to the red line and it kind of sounds a little bit like a MotoGP bike. What's not to like? It does feel quick as well. I certainly think all the performance you really need on the road. This is a boring bit of road though, so let's cut here, and I'm gonna reconvene. I'm gonna come back on again on a nice twisty bit. Obviously there are some reliability issues to worry with this. Yeah, the sprag clutch thing. I am always worried that this is going to strand me somewhere and not start. So today's not so bad, because today I'm not stopping anywhere. I'm going to go out straight back and don't have to worry about it potentially not starting. But let's not worry about that now, because we're at a national speed limit. Let's just pop it down. Should we go first? Go for first. The end noise of this is just superb. You just keep going and going and going up to, where are we at? 11,500 RPM. Oh, yeah. Cold, in places slightly greasy tarmac, so it's spinning up quite a lot. So this will be slightly more sedate ride today. Yeah, the temperature today I think is about 3 degrees. I don't mind going out with temperature as long as I've got some nice base layers on, and yeah, there's not too much damp on the road. There's patches of it, but it's not terrible, and I've got some nice base layers on as well, which is always good. But I've taken both bikes off camera for slightly harder rides where I don't have to worry about potentially spinning up the rear and lobbing myself into a ditch. The other good case for this bike is it feels a lot more keen to tip in. The weight difference is pretty chunky. I think as much as 30 or 40 kilos. I'm terrible at remembering these things, so I'm going to put it on here when I edit later. Hello. The Triumph does feel like a bit of a unit when you're tipping it in. You kind of got, oh, what's this in the middle of the road? You've got to put quite a lot of pressure in the bars to get it to kind of do what you want. This, still quite softly sprung, still not the most sporty thing in the world. You know, this is a sports tourer, it is not a sports bike. But it just feels that bit keener to tip in. You can move it around. You know, you don't feel like you're kind of fighting against it. And as well, actually, yeah, I say the suspension is a bit soft. No, it doesn't wallow. It feels like it tracks the road surface really nicely. Particularly when I'm sort of doing like the Fenland rides around here, where yeah, the road surface is kind of all over the place. It's yeah. At some point, I'm probably going to have to think about maybe a fork rebuild, maybe looking at the shock. I don't know. There we go again. Right. Not sure I will ever get bored of this, but if that was only briefly at full throttle, it feels quick. This is a bike from what, like, let me think, 25 years ago, more than that. Yeah, this bit's always a bit bouncy, but it doesn't feel that bad, honestly. Old suspension, but it's all right. No rider aids whatsoever, not even ABS. That's the same for both bikes. MPG, I haven't talked about MPG actually. I think that's probably pretty similar. I did a tank to tank, and this was, I think, just under 40. I think you probably get that from the Triumph as well. Give these guys a bit of a gap, so I'm not going to be overtaken before the corner. So yeah, fuel doesn't really come into it. Brakes, brakes are fine on both. They're not anything to write home about. Still don't entirely trust these corners in this weather, even though I know them quite well. I guess that is the kind of icon status thing as well. This is a bit of a legend. The Triumph Sprint, not so much, it's a bit forgotten, although it's kind of weird because that's not necessarily reflected in the prices of RC36s. They're still, you can still pick them up, as I found, very cheap. I would say that when I was looking around this kind of money, yeah, generally it was the later 800s that were coming up, not the 750s. I think the 750s are a bit more sought after, but this one, because they had no MOT, very high mileage, it happened to be a pretty good deal. Which of these is going to be better to spend a lot of miles in? I think they're both pretty good. I think this potentially less tiring overall because it's a bit lighter, and when you get to your destination you're not going to be shuffling it around and, you know, it's, oh fucking hell, I don't want to, my camera, it's not nice. Yeah, I think when you get to your destination, you're parking up, long tiring day, you've then got to try and manoeuvre that Triumph around, which when you're manoeuvring it particularly, it feels heavy even for, let's try second gear this time. Come on, good noise. I say noise and sound too much on these videos, but that for me with motorbikes is a big draw, is what they sound like. I think you know, you want a car that sounds like that, you've got to spend a lot of money, frankly, and frankly you're not going to get one that sounds quite as nice as that anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. There we go. With that blue flame exhaust as well, you get some lovely crackles. Let's pop the helmet open, even though it's going to freeze my eyeballs because it's so bloody cold today. Oh, wonderful, wonderful motorbike. It feels very nicely sorted. It's not just about the engine, this bike. Easier to manoeuvre when you're at a standstill. In terms of wind protection, I don't know, this is potentially a bit worse, I think, ironically, because of this extended screen. I don't like the way it just kind of fires it down into my neck and it leaves your head exposed. I don't know if you want like a little extendy bit or something. Yeah, just down there's an old Ducati dealership, which is now the HQ of Potsky Media, which is yeah, a motorcycle specific PR firm I've done a few bits with before. There is a bit of a personal connection with this bike in that, you know, I have wanted one for years. It was an itch that I really wanted to scratch for a long time. The Triumph was, you know, I never really thought about it before, but just quite fancied it. I do like triples. There is that personal connection, and that does make me want to keep this potentially more than the Triumph, but let's not get hasty. Do to ride the Triumph and blather on about that for a bit. Yeah, probably both as come for each other. Riding position pretty simple. They've both got risers, so even though these are clip-ons-ish, so even though, you know, these have sporty-ish riding positions, not really that sporty. It's still, yeah, still fairly comfortable. I've done I did 2 hours on the way up from Sheffield on this. Comfort wasn't a worry at all. The Triumph, I've had some longer days in the saddle on that. Comfort wasn't a worry at all. I don't feel backache or anything. It's more just the issue with the weight on that. So yeah, let's go back, switch to Triumph, and I'll carry on blathering on. The first thing I noticed, actually that's not true, the first thing I noticed was of course the weight when I was shuffling it around, and so what I had to do, I popped this away in the garage just when I went to film the Honda. So shuffling this out of the garage, and God, you notice the weight difference. It just feels, like I said, this feels, I think this is, well, 230, 240 kilos, but it feels heavier than other 230, 240 kilo bikes I've ridden to sort of push around. I don't know if it's because the wheels are made of like lead or something. Oh, I know I said the case of the VFR was its noise, but the case of this, also noise. Oh, it's so difficult because it's a different kind of sound. What I would say is, while the VFR sounds good everywhere, this low revs, it kind of sounds a bit it sounds a bit rough. It sounds a bit like a truck almost. But yeah, get it in the high RPMs. This doesn't rev as high as the Honda. Caps out just under 10. Honda does 11.5. There we go. Second gear pull. See, I think this is the bike that feels quicker. Although both have the same power, this is heavier. I think because the mid-range clout is so brawny. Less fun to rev match downshift though, I would say. Although on the gearbox front, this is interesting because I've only ever ridden these bikes days apart, but it's quite revealing doing both back to back. And whereas the clutch action on this, not something I've ever really thought about before. Much nicer, much sharper. I should say a lot of these differences, some of them will be down to the inherent nature of the bike, others will be down to this bike in particular. So it could be, you know, condition things that have been serviced on one bike and not serviced on the other. But yeah, clutch action is much better. Brakes, probably a little bit worse. There's like a little dead spot there where not a great deal happens. You do squeeze them, it's fine. Throttle, I dare say the throttle in this feels a little bit sharper. Condition, I think they're both pretty similar in that regard. They're both a little bit tatty. This obviously has got those infill bits there that are missing. Both have got various missing fasteners and whatnot. Both just need a damn good clean. Yeah, and like kind of the bits underneath, like engine casings, they're not looking the prettiest. I don't really care. What about looks though? That's an interesting one, because I don't think the VFR is, I don't know, in the blue that I've got. I think in the red, yes, looks pretty. Blue I've got, I don't know so much. Yeah, I think that the VFR is probably the better looking bike. I thought people don't like the way these look. I think side on and from the rear, great. From the front, yeah, I see what you mean with that. And the third lamp at the top, it kind of looks a bit like Doctor Strange when he had the extra eye at the end of the last film. Yeah, but anyway, I got distracted. What I was saying earlier, the first thing I noticed after the sheer effort needed to wheel the damn thing out the garage is how slidey the seat is. A lot more seat grip on the VFR. You just slide around everywhere, not even, you know, you don't even have to be full throttle and you just find yourself sliding backwards on it. These kind of corners here, it feels fine. I think it's when you get to the tighter stuff that it just feels like you're needing a lot more effort to get the bike turned. Wind protection, obviously, you know, it's worse because you've not got the extended screen, but it's a more even blast of air in my kind of face and upper body. So in some ways, I don't think either one really wins in that regard. Yeah, this is firmer. I'm noticing that I think if I remember rightly, the previous owner told me that when the forks are rebuilt, it was with thicker oil. Not uncomfortable by any means. Oh, I got a confession to make, and that's that I have really, since I picked it up, been erring towards the Honda, but every time I ride this, wins me over that bit more. No starting issues with this, so I think, you know, I'm less worried about it when if I've parked it up somewhere, gone and done something, come back to it, and I know it's going to start again. It's also fuel injected, as yeah, the script on the bike loves to shout about. It's fuel injected, not carbs. Carbs scare me a bit. Just they shouldn't do really, but it's just an extra thing. Oh, I'm in neutral there. That's an extra thing to bear in mind. Also, I feel like there's a bit of play. Have you seen me? That's always what I worry about when someone, you know, like someone's just looking straight through you. Yeah, there is a little bit of play, I think, in the headstock, which I need to look into really before I ride this anymore. So there's bits to do on both bikes, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. But maybe this bike is the less of a worry. Which is weird because obviously, you know, you think Honda reliability and everything, but obviously this is... Oh. Sorry, distracted. Yeah, both bikes need bits doing. I think the Honda's, well, you've got to remember, it's an older generation bike. Although the age of the two bikes is similar, this was launched a lot later than the RT36 was. And that does show, not just in the fact that you've got fuel injection and the other one's carbs, but various other bits. It just does feel like the more modern bike. Perhaps a bit less to worry about. Yeah, these sort of fast sweepers, it's fine. Oh, it's such a punchy engine, that thing. Yeah, I'm just a bit wary about it because it's such a chunk. I feel like I can chuck it around too much. A bit more of a kind of point and squirt sort of thing. I'll just say, yeah, during those fast sweepy bits. It feels pretty nice. Which of the two would you keep if you had both? And you know, if they're exactly like these bikes as well, in the condition and the mileage. That wasn't even full throttle. I just love that you can spend so little on a motorbike and it sounds like this and goes like this. Oh, I was so set. I really was leaning towards a Honda, but this is going to be a difficult decision. I may need to come back over voiceover. I don't know. But I feel like what I love about this bike, it's the engine, not necessarily the rest of the bike. I can see why these are the cheapest of those. I think really what I want is maybe the Daytona 955i. This engine, actually, I've never mentioned before on any of these videos. This engine had a bit worked on it by Lotus. I think Lotus had something to do with the cylinder head, possibly, I want to say. Yeah, that was in that era then, to stay afloat. Lotus would kind of like help anyone they possibly could out with a few bits and pieces in return for a bit of money. But yeah, I feel like what I like about this bike is the engine, I think. Obviously I love the engine. I love the engine in the VFR as well. But there's a bit, I think, you know, as a whole package I like that, was this. I think with the weight and all the rest of it, that puts me off. I feel like maybe what I need to do is get something else with this engine at this point, maybe a Daytona. There is the RS version of this. I was maybe a bit mean about it sounding like a truck, but alright, let's go up one more. That was the car behind me. I was being a good boy. Yeah, see what I mean? Just sounds a bit agricultural at those low revs, but shifting this thing around I just find quite laborious. Oh yeah, that felt like quite a lot of play then when we went and thumped over that. It's like here, just when you're trying to hold it, just feels, yeah, chunky. Oh, RS4, that's a B7 I want to say. I think this is going to be the one that goes. The Honda stays, but yeah, I don't feel like I'm done with this 955i engine. I think I'd like to revisit in a less chunky form. It was interesting actually when I did the video about the pickup of this bike. A lot of people were, you know, saying I had one but it was too heavy, and then they sold it. So I've basically just done the same thing. I'm glad I tried it. You know, it's always good to try new things, and it does, you know, prove that I do need to do some further investigation via Facebook Marketplace probably. As it happens, I do have a few RSs, including one with no engine that I'm currently watching on Facebook Marketplace. Should I buy should I buy one of the RS version of this with no engine? Let me know in the comments. Maybe that's what I'll do. I can put the engine from this in that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sell this, be sensible. Whether or not I tidy it up first, I don't know. But yeah, all I do know is it will be going, not straight away. It's got a few months. It's got a stay of execution, let's call it. Here we go. This is always nice. Oh, see, every now and then I do something like that and I'm like, oh, I want to sell it. I could keep both. It's not, you know, it was only 75 quid to add the VFR to the insurance of this one, but I think a lot of it is about wanting to try some other stuff. I've got the Norton as well. I should say I have not forgotten about the Norton, so I haven't forgotten about that. But yeah, obviously with that bike as well, garage space is a bit of a premium. I'm taxing, insuring a lot of bikes at the moment, so if I want to try some other stuff, one does have to go, and I think it is going to be this one. Please do like and subscribe, it really does help. There is more to come with this bike. It is in its, as I say, stay of execution. So yeah, you will see some more videos of this bike before it goes, but it is, yeah, that's the one that's gonna go. And it gives me no pleasure, and I'm a bit sad about it, because I have, you know, every time I've ridden this, I have grown to love it. But VFR, I think, better all-round bike, probably a bit more to my tastes, and yeah, there is that kind of personal connection which is hard to ignore. And it's got 100,000 miles on it, which amuses me. So yeah, there we go. Bye.